Hey, welcome into the Stinkin Truth Podcast. Mark Schlereth alongside Mike Evans. It's a Week 6 matchup podcast right now, plus our moneymaker picks. Took one on the chin last week, about ready to rectify that this week. Don't you little wry smile over there. That's what I hate about you. Of the list of many things that I hate about you, that's one of them that's on the list.
That little shit-eating grin.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm on the comeback trail.
That's right. You are the Patriots down 28-3, and I'm the Falcons. So, all right. Well, that's all. We'll see how it ends. We'll see if the Falcons can hold you off this time.
We'll see if they decide to run the ball.
Yeah,
run the ball,
all
Kyle
right.
Shanahan. Run the ball. We'll get to Kyle. Kyle's got it rolling right now, but. We like to joke here in Denver that Chargers going to charge it.
Right.
Well, you've made it pretty clear in the early part of this season that you think Cowboys going to Cowboy.
Yeah.
So now we got Cowboys and Chargers.
Right.
So who's going to be able to do it less?
All
Chargers
right.
going to Charger or Cowboys going to Cowboy less?
You can take this one to the bank. All right. Just mark it down, write it down. This damn thing ends in a tie. That's going to end in a tie. Neither of these guys. I happen to feel like maybe Brandon Staley wants to get fired. Maybe he's so sick of working for the Chargers because some of the ridiculousness of him going for it on fourth down in his own 24 and this, that, and the other, like he's trying to lose games. And in spite of that, he still finds a way to win games. There's a couple guys on the Chargers that, I think you have to look at. Bosa's a guy that everybody talks about. You know, Khalil Mack, last time he played, had 6 sacks in a game.
Look at this game's already giving him a headache.
Just
He's like, I got to talk about this game, and it's giving me a headache.
Yeah, 6 sacks in that game. Like he automatically went to the Pro Bowl. Like, you just sent him to the Pro. Remember, he played the Broncos years ago when he was with the Raiders and got 6 sacks in that game here in Denver.
Michael Schofield was the tackle. Straight
to the Pro Bowl. He just went straight to the Pro Bowl after a game like that. I will say this. One of my favorite players in the National Football League to watch play, and this doesn't happen very often when I talk about wide receivers being my favorite players because most of the time I don't like them. But Keenan Allen's one of my favorite players. Big, strong, sets a tone, physical, takes no crap off nobody. And he is just one of those guys that you look at the way he plays. He's just a phenomenal football player, really sets a tone for that offense. And, he's just one of those guys that I love to watch play. I think he's that good. And then, when we talk about this Dallas Cowboys team, like Dak Prescott is really good when there's nothing on the line or when they're playing a subpar talent football team. But when they need Dak Prescott to go out and win, against a good defense, it just seems like he's just not that guy. And, Jerry Jones, I want to ask you this. Jerry Jones came out and basically said, hey, listen, I still believe that Dak, is the guy that can win us a Super Bowl or be the starting quarterback. Like, we say this all the time. Our buddy Joel Klatt, who comes on with us, says it all the time. The confetti test. Like, if you close your eyes, if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, and you close your eyes, can you picture confetti falling on Dak Prescott's head as he wins, as he's the Super Bowl MVP and leads the Dallas Cowboys to a championship? Can you picture that?
It's hard, but also right now, I think it's hard to imagine that happening with Justin Herbert. You just got these two teams that just, when you think about trying to win a Super Bowl, right? You got to show an ability to grind. You got to show an ability to really be able to handle. You know what it's like to win Super Bowls, 3 of them. You got to be able to deal with adversity. And these guys both these teams, that when adversity presents itself, they just seem to kind of get, pushed back by it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that that's, I don't know that it's a quarterback thing. I think it's a team thing. Like, I think you got to have the right team. And, it's one thing. I just think that talent can take you so far, but when you get to that stage, it's not great quarterbacks that win championships or what. It's great teams. And you could sit there and talk. We joked about the Atlanta Falcons and Tom Brady and the Patriots, but there was a formation that resulted in a sack. There was, you're going for it and you're throwing the ball and you're not eating up clock. And there was a lot of things that just weren't Brady-esque that led to that major comeback down 28-3. There were a lot of self-inflicted wounds, if you will, administered by the Atlanta Falcons. And so, but I mean, that whole team had a mental toughness about them that I think is required when you get to playoff time.
Well, you think about Belichick back when he was a good coach, and I think his philosophy was that a lot of times
did he forget to coach? How to coach? As he washed up, did he forget how to coach? Yeah. Go ahead. His philosophy.
But the idea was that maybe more football games are lost than won.
Right. Yeah.
And just sometimes, a lot of times, just be mentally tough, hang in there, and wait for the other guy to make a mistake, right? And I think that sometimes you look at teams like the Chargers, Dallas, and there's probably some other teams that come to mind too, that they get into that position where they just can't help but make that mistake that ends up costing them a game.
Isn't it sad? Like for me, being that we live here in Denver, and I'll just sidetrack us for a second, I get information from inside the Jets locker room that the Jets were saying the thing about Denver is that we know if we force them into a mistake that they're going to crumble. Like eventually the Broncos just be like, oh gosh, here we go again. The Jets, the sad sack Jets with Zach Wilson that haven't won a championship since Joe Willie Namath was in the league. It's got to be 6 decades since they've won something. The sad sack Jets are saying, we knew that if we just forced the Broncos into a mistake or two, they would crumble. They would take a dump in their helmets like they always do, and they'd be over. Dude, the Jets are saying that about you.
Well, and I would bet that there are plenty of teams that play the Chargers and Cowboys that feel the same way.
Yeah.
That ultimately
they're front runners. And as soon as you put the pressure on them, they're going to crumble and make mistakes. But it hurt my heart because we used to say it about teams. Like we used to say that all the time about different teams. Like, oh yeah, weather the storm. Once we force them into a couple mistakes, the Raiders, they will roll over. They will just roll over the Raiders, and they'll just give it up. The Raiders. So that's what we used to say. Yeah, that's what we used to say all the time about the Raiders.
Okay. I was having a hard time figuring out what team you were talking about.
Yeah,
San Francisco's looking like a team that's got that mental toughness. Yeah. And Mark, I know it's still early. They're 5-0. They're getting ready to go to Cleveland. But at what point do we start talking about when is this team going to lose? Because you look at the schedule coming up. The Browns. They go to the Vikings. They have the Bengals, but they're at home. They go to the Jaguars. They got Tampa at home. They go to Seattle. Maybe you got to wait until December 3rd when they go to the Eagles, Philly, to find a game where, hey, maybe San Francisco will suffer their first loss.
Man, they went on a run last year. Remember last year they started off and then they go on a run. Because they started off earlier, they lost a couple games. They lost Chicago. I think they made at one point they were 3-4 when they rattled off 12 straight wins or something like that. That was last year. They're a damn good football team. Now here's going to be the interesting thing this weekend with Cleveland. Cleveland is legit defensively. They are legit. Like they are big, strong, physical, can run. They've got guys on the back end that can cover. Guys like Denzel Ward that can play. Their front four, they can rush the passer. They can play the run. And I have happened to do a couple of games that have followed Cleveland games where Cleveland just dismantled people, just dismantled other people's offenses. So that's going to be interesting. I think the thing that really intrigues me about the 49ers, though, Mike, is when you watch them, their ability to get guys in wide open space with the ability to catch the ball, turn, and still have 5 yards to operate before anybody is going to come into contact with him. Then they've got guys like George Kittle, like Deebo Samuel, like Brandon Ayuk, like Kyle Juszczyk, guys that can juke you but can run right over the top of you as well. and their ability to do that through a game planning standpoint. One of the things that I constantly talk about with Kyle Shanahan is his ability to get his guys in the passing game and the running game with the ball in their hand in space. And one of the things he does in the run game that I think is so unique is through motions and through formations and through shifts and through all the things they do, they get the defense moving, and then through snap count. And snap count is a big weapon. And I always think of snap count, the weapon is, the cadence, right? So blue 80, and it's hard counts, hut, and it's whatever. So you're trying to give a rhythmic cadence so your offensive line can jump the cadence, so your players can jump the cadence, but also a rhythmic cadence to where you can draw people off sides and you can keep them off balance. But that's not where they use cadence to their advantage. They use cadence to their advantage to snap the ball when somebody's in motion and give them an 8-inch advantage on a blocking angle. So you're like you shift and you get linebackers to boss over strong, right? Backers over strong. That's what we call bossing. That linebacker bossed. So he moved, one gap strong, one gap strength-wise. Then all of a sudden you jet motion across, and before that guy crosses the ball, right? So here's the ball. Before he crosses the ball, we snap it. Well, the guy bossed over. So we snap it, and now instantly that guy runs out here, does whatever, but you've got 6 or 8 inches of an angle, if you're an offensive lineman, to that middle linebacker. So I've essentially, before they can readjust the formation or readjust their strength call based on the motion, you've already trapped them on the opposite side of the ball. And so now all of a sudden we get a wide angle play out there, and and it's just wide open edges.
And for an offensive lineman, what kind of advantage does that give you?
Well,
6 to 8 inch angle like that?
Oh, it's huge, because now I've already cut you off. I'm forcing you to either bubble way over the top. So even if you make the tackle, I don't give a crap. We just got 9 yards. Mm-hmm. Who cares? Or run underneath. And you run underneath, and I stop you there. Whoop! That's out the gate. That's running backs on safeties. And here's the rule. If my safety brings down my running back in wide open space, I need a new running back. That's the rule. And they are tremendous in the way they devise their game plan and attack people.
All right, so we'll see how that Cleveland defense holds up. We'll also find out if Deshaun Watson plays, because that's been kind of weird.
He had a shoulder or something?
He's got a shoulder,
He should get a massage.
Well,
what? I mean, I heard massage is good for stuff like that. I'm sure you can find somebody.
I'm speechless right now. I don't know what to say.
I'm just saying you could.
You could.
You could.
Yes, you could. But
I'm just saying that's an important aspect.
Let's move along.
Okay.
Let's move along to the next game. We've got Philly and the Jets. You know what you're going to get from Philly, right? I think the big question out there is that even without Aaron Rodgers, did the Jets show enough last week that makes you think they can still compete for the playoffs?
Oh, man.
Without Aaron Rodgers.
The way they run the ball, Breece Hall. Now, again, it was against the Broncos, so you've got to kind of take some of that with a grain of salt.
Broncos just completed a 3-game stretch where they gave up more yards rushing than in any other 3-game stretch in Denver Bronco history.
Yeah. They're giving up right now 245 yards per game. Shit through a goose. You ever been on a golf course with goose poop? Yeah, that's the Broncos defense. So, but I will tell you this. When you're talking about Quincy Williams and Quinnen Williams, and you're talking about C.J. Mosley and Sauce Gardner and the players that the Jets have on the defensive side of the ball, they are exceptional. And then if you can run the ball the way they've run the ball this year, it's amazing how much pressure you'll take off Zach Wilson. And, Zach seems to have dropped the headband, and he's actually playing better football. And there was a rallying cry last week when they beat the Broncos with their offense coordinator, and Nathaniel Hackett or Nate Hackett, and whatever he's going by now. Have you noticed how many people have kind of changed the pronunciations of their names or whatever? Maybe we just always got it wrong, but all of a sudden, maybe just because I'm in a different stadium every weekend, and you're like, the guys you've called a certain thing for the last 4 years, all of a sudden they have a different pronunciation of their name.
What do you think that is?
I think it's been mispronounced their whole lives, and they've never said anything about it. And then finally, the PR staff asked them, here's what I'd like them to do. Some teams do this. This is really cool. They get every guy in front of a camera and say, pronounce your name. And so I would sit in front and I'd go, Mark Schlereth. It's not Schlereth. It's Mark Schlereth. It happened to me year 3. I go to the Pro Bowl, and the next thing I know, everybody wants to talk to me, right? And somebody asked me, actually, how do you say your name? And I go, well, it's Schlereth. It's not Schlereth. It's Schlereth. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, this guy changed. He goes to the Pro Bowl. He changes his name.
Wow,
right. No, it's never been pronounced right. So, yeah.
What a diva.
Yeah, exactly. What a diva. So I think that's the, I think that's what's kind of going on right now. But from a PR staff department, why don't you just put every guy in front of a camera? You go on your website, you go on to AtlantaFalcons.com, and you watch the guys pronounce their name.
Would have helped a lot with Albert Okwuegbunam. Would have helped a lot.
Especially for Kevin Harlan.
Yeah.
But we went from like Jonnu Smith forever. It's Jonnu Smith. This year it's Jonnu Smith. It was Jonnu Smith from ever since he got in the league. And he's been in the league for a long time. Now it's Jonnu Smith.
Well, I know he was always Nathaniel Hackett, and then the broadcast came out the other day, and
it was Nate Hackett.
It was Nate.
Nate Dogg. They call him Nate Dogg.
And they kept saying Nate. I'm like, all right, they just did that once. And then he kept doing it. I'm like, when did he become Nate Hackett? Yeah. He was always Nathaniel Hackett. But
he was the artist formerly known as Nathaniel.
I guess so.
Yeah,
I guess
now
so.
he's Nate.
He's reinventing himself. Yeah. But all right, so we'll find out with the Jets what they're made of. Philadelphia is Philadelphia is just.
They're like
you love talking about Philadelphia.
Well, I love their offensive line. I love how their offensive line
and their
plays.
Defensive line.
And their defensive line is outstanding. But they are like, you talk about loaded from top to bottom. Hurts just had his 5th career game with 300 yards passing and over 50 yards rushing. He just continues to do things. A.J. Brown is a beast. Dallas Goedert is the best tight end in football that nobody talks about. Like he's just top notch. They're a damn good football team. Jalen Carter has got, the guy had. I just was reading a stat because I'm doing the Houston game about rookies and pressures. The dude's got more pressures than any other rookie. It's insane. So I'm telling you what, Howie Roseman, tip of the cap. I'll just give it to him right here. Tip of the cap, Howie Roseman. He's continuing to put together an unbelievable roster. And so, anyhow, what are you gonna say?
Who would
They're really good.
Right now, we're just a tick past the quarter pole.
Uh-huh.
Well, I guess we're kind of at the quarter. Yeah, a little tick past the quarter pole. Who would be your NFL MVP right now?
Ooh, I hadn't even thought about that. NFL MVP.
So you got a quick short list. You got
Brock Purdy,
Jalen Hurts.
I
mean, Mahomes, you're always going to put up there.
Any real football players?
I was just getting ready to ask you. Is there anybody who's non-quarterback?
Christian McCaffrey.
Christian
McCaffrey would be right up there. We need like real football players in there.
Mm-hmm. Any receivers?
Any receivers? Is there a receiver? Oh man, Justin Jefferson. He just got hurt hammy. Yeah. He's going to be out for a while.
But they weren't playing well.
No, they're not winning enough games. They won one game. Anybody else? Anybody else? Nick, help me out.
Or if you want to go with a defensive guy, I mean, the chance of a defensive guy winning the MVP. But if you could nominate somebody, don't be shy. If you want to put a defensive guy up there, go ahead.
I would love to see that award be diversified to a guy like Christian McCaffrey or a guy who is putting up a huge percentage of a team's offense or who is a big-time problem on the defensive side of the ball. And like you always I look at that stuff and I think that stuff is really important. But I mean, I just know how the league works. It'll just go to a quarterback.
All right, so Purdy, Hurts, Mahomes?
Yeah, I don't like any of them. I like Purdy. I actually like them all, but I'm going to go right now Christian McCaffrey.
Okay. All right.
I think he's a huge part of that offense.
Interesting game for me. I'm curious to see this one. Tampa Bay and Detroit for a couple of reasons. One, for Detroit, now they're starting to enter that favored,
right,
bully expectation. Go out on the road, show that you're able to go out on the road and take care of business against a Tampa team that has been a pleasant surprise with Baker Mayfield.
It really has. Baker's actually played pretty well. I just dug through because I have the Saints this weekend, so I dug through that Tampa Saints game last night, and Baker's playing pretty well. Now, a couple of explosive plays. They had 3 or 4 explosive plays. They had a 26-yarder, a 32-yarder, a 42-yarder, and 2 18-yard outs. Those were their 18 yards. Some people wouldn't qualify that. Some people qualify an explosive pass play as 17 and above. I would say the majority of teams probably classify it as 20 yards and above. So if you take out the 5 explosives, you had 100 yards passing. If you take out those 2 18-yarders and just give him 3 explosives, he had about 140 yards passing. He ended up with like 249 or something like that. But he's actually playing well. And I'll tell you the other thing he's doing really well is when things break down, man, he's making smart decisions, whether he throws it on the run or whether he just scrambles for first downs. He's making smart decisions. I can see why Baker has I can see why guys like to play with him. He's got some sauce to him, He's got dude
quality.
Yeah. He's got a good dude quality. I will say this: Tampa Bay's defense, man, they're really good. Shaq Barrett's a really good player. The 2 inside linebackers with Levante David and Devin White are phenomenal. Antoine Winfield Jr. at the safety position is a freaking beast. They're really good. I think Todd Bowles, their head coach, does a great job of game planning defensively for them. But I think it is time for us, when we talk about Detroit, and sitting down with Dan Campbell and texting with Dan Campbell, he'll tell you the best group I have is my offensive line. That's where we've invested money. The best player on my football team, everybody will talk about Aiden Hutchinson. Everybody will talk about, some of the other guys on there, running backs and receivers. The best player on our team is Penei Sewell. He's the best player on our team, and he's a physical specimen, man. He's a freak show. But they want to dominate line of scrimmage. They want to win that way. And at some point, and I'm serious about this, do yourself a favor. Just Google quarterback statistics and go look for over the last 2 years. Jared Goff will be in the top 10 to top 5 of every statistical category there is. The guy is an elite quarterback right now in the league, a guy that they didn't want in the Rams anymore, that they tossed away. And he is essentially playing at an elite level.
Is there an asterisk beside that, though? I was just going to bring this up, okay? Because here's my argument then, that this home road thing, is this a thing? Because last year, you look at the numbers, Jared Goff, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Wow. 23-3 at home, just 6-4 on the road. 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. This year, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions at home. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception on the road.
How many road games have they had?
Not as many.
Okay.
But I gave you the numbers last year, which was an even split.
Right.
So they go to Tampa this week. Is that a thing that you need to see changed a little bit?
It's always hard. It's always hard when you're on the road, right? It's always hard. And remember, last year, they started off 1-6. And then they caught fire about halfway through the year last year. So, it's like when you put quarterback wins as a quarterback, that's a quarterback statistic, which I would tell you that's garbage. You can't put quarterback wins as a quarterback statistic. The team wins football games. So, I'll go back to Joe Flacco winning a playoff game where he was 4 for 10 for 62 yards. Come on. That's a little bit, that's where the numbers the numbers never lie, but they rarely tell the truth. That's kind of one of those things. So I'd have to see like those things. But
3 home games, 2 road games, by the way. So
yeah. One of those road games was in Kansas City to open up against the Super Bowl champions, and they had a pick six for a touchdown. So those are it's hard to go on the road and win in this league. But I'm just telling you, Jared Goff is playing at an exceptionally high level.
Where are you at with the Bills? They look so good in beating Miami.
Right.
Then they go to London and lose to Jacksonville.
How unfair is that, by the way, that Jacksonville just gets to camp there?
That's a fair point.
I know that Shad Khan, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, wants to make Jacksonville, London's team, and expand globally and all this stuff. But, dude, you go there, you play a game against the Falcons in which you win, and then you just hunker down for a week and let the Bills fly over on Thursday night. You've acclimated to the time and to everything else, and you fly in. It's really.
So you're not holding that Buffalo loss against them in any way? Just
no, I picked Buffalo. I picked Buffalo to win, and now I'm really looking at that going, well, this is the problem with me picking games. I look at things. I don't look at injury reports. I don't look at. I go, I like that. I like that. I like that. I like that.
Well, you weren't making those allowances when you got off to a hot start this season. You never brought that up. When you were picking games correctly, you never said that.
No,
now you have 1 0-3 week, and here come the excuses.
I still,
wah, wah, wah.
I know. I still
Jeez,
picked the
look
exact.
At this guy.
I still picked the exact same way. But
I never heard about. Oh, I never looked.
Well,
at
when you're winning,
when you're
winning. I win with class, Mike. I don't pat myself on the back when I'm winning. I'm not walking around oh, look how good I am. I'm so smart.
Says the guy who says I'm a good loser, but I'm a real jerk as a winner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where am I with the Bills? Listen. They've lost their best starting corner in White, right? They lost their middle linebacker in Milano, who's a really good player. I say that right, Milano, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think they also lost one of their outstanding defensive tackles as well. And the old, where there's smoke, there's fire. Nothing to see here. Oh, it's just a misunderstanding. I know that Diggs is a really good player, but I still feel like there's a little bit of organizational tension there. So, and I don't know what that is, but hey, listen, man, if you're gonna be a contender in this league, you've got to play with more consistency than the Bills play. You can't put it on Miami one weekend. And I understand that it was unfair conditions. Up all night with crying, baby. I don't give a shit, right? You got to go out and you got to play well. And so I'm going to reserve judgment on Buffalo, but I this is a great get well game for them because they're playing the inept Giants. I don't know how many sacks that Daniel Jones has taken in the last, but you're basically going to run him out of football. I mean, you're going to get to the point where that dude's a big dude. He's a strong dude. He can run around and do all those things. I don't care who you are. What do they have, 19 sacks in the last couple of weeks?
David Carr is watching this going, ooh, this is unfair.
He's like, David Carr's looking at it like it was for the scene from Rocky. Go into town!
Google David Carr sack numbers and you'll understand where we're going at. You ready to get to the picks?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Fresh off a week in which you went 0-3 and I went 3-0. The comeback is underway.
Yep. Oh shoot, I forgot to bring my little book, but I'll put it down right here. So I went 0-3, Mike.
Yep.
And I am now currently 8-6-1. That sucks. And you went 3-0 to move your tally up to 7-8, I think.
7-8, yeah.
Yeah. So you're like,
wow, I got right back into it.
You're like 2 or 3 games behind me.
Yeah, game and a half. All right, let's go. I go first this week. I'm going to take Cincinnati at home.
Fool.
Well, you're feel free to take Seattle. Cincinnati at home -3.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way Seattle's playing, but they got to go back east again. just
They
seems
play
like
really well back east.
they do. But
I told you that last time they won. You went against them.
That was against the Giants, though.
I know,
that
foolish.
was silly me, but I think Cincinnati's, they understand they can't drop another home game. So I'm going to take Cincinnati minus the 3 at home. I'm going to take San Francisco.
I want to officially put this under protest.
What?
You taking San Francisco.
Why not?
Well, because you hate the Shanahans, and
I don't
now
hate
you're
the
just
Shanahans.
you have always hated the Shanahans.
No.
I don't know what Mike did to you,
nothing.
but you always are
Give
like,
me a look.
oh, the Shanahans. So I
That's
just don't
me
think
busting your balls because you are like such. I mean, the love you have for Mike Shanahan and the bromance you have with Kyle Shanahan. I gotta tweak.
I just think if you were honest, you would just eliminate.
I'm not dumb.
Eliminate.
I'm not dumb.
I think
they're a juggernaut
right
now.
I just think you should not be allowed to.
They are a juggernaut. I'm going to take San Francisco minus the 5.5. And boy, the Belichick Bowl. Belichick against his protege. Patriots have been outscored 72-3 in their last 2 games. They go out to Vegas. Vegas got a good solid win the other night against Green Bay. I think they continue. I'll take Vegas minus 3 against the Pats.
Okay. All right. So now we go back to the winning ways. 3-0. Here we come. My philosophy here, Mike, is
Do you remember your picks?
Yeah, kind of. Not really. Not really. Let me see. Okay. My philosophy.
That he believes in so much.
My philosophy is give points. I'm a giving type of guy. I am not afraid to give points because that's what I do. This is altruistic stink making these picks. So I'm going to go to Miami, at Miami, giving 13.5 to the Carolina Panthers. Fools. They'll beat them by 21 easy. I'm going Miami, giving the 13.5. I'd give you 15. That's where I am right now. Then I'm going to go to Philadelphia, playing the New York Jets. I love what the Jets are doing right now. I love the way they're running the ball. I love the way they're playing defense. But you know what? Too much versatility, too much Jalen Hurts, and too much defense for Philadelphia. Philadelphia, -7. I'll give you the -7 at the Jets to win against the New York Jets. And then lastly, you talked about Tampa Bay. We talked about Detroit in this podcast. I like Detroit. I like their physicality. Going to Tampa, giving up 3. I'll take Detroit. I'll give you the 3.
You know what's going to happen because of that? Baker Mayfield's going to put you on his list. Or are you still on his list?
No.
Going back to Oklahoma days.
No, Baker and I are tight now.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I talked to Baker. We hashed it out this summer. Let me just write this down really quick. Philly -7. -7.
The picks that Mark believes in so strongly.
Yes.
What did I pick?
What did I pick? Detroit.
Can I see your notes?
DET, Detroit -3. Lock it down.
Lock it down,
Lock
baby.
it down. That is gospel right there. Anyhow, for everybody involved in the Stinky Truth, we thank you so much. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure you don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel for more content just like this. If you want to see more of our videos, you can also be sure to check out our playlist. Let us know exactly what you think in the comments below. We appreciate you guys so much for being a part of that.
Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.